We're going to switch gears because obviously we could talk about this probably the entire show. This is going to be a hot topic from now
Yes.
until June. And after everything switches in June, we'll have to bring it back up again for sure.
Absolutely. So 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Pacific Standard Time is the truth behind the headlines. It happens once a month. Tomorrow, I have the global head of community at Inman News, who was in the courtroom the whole time and have exclusive content for you guys tomorrow around the NAR case and settlement and what's to come. So you want to tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. PST.
And you can tell that's going to be piping hot. So we're definitely going to have to check that out. So real quick, I wanted to share with you guys an article that I saw on Fox Business. We know times are tough right now, but this was so interesting. It says a record-breaking number of Americans are making emergency withdrawals from 401k retirement plans, you guys, in order to cover financial hardships. This is crazy. So now they're calling this a hardship withdrawal, and over 5 million accounts were affected in 2023 because so many people needed to pull from their 401k because they fell on hard times. Now, Nasima, we will forever coin you because it's absolutely a miracle. I still need the details. You paid off $1 million in debt, so this is kind of your arena. So let's talk about where people can cut back a little bit, how you've kind of made those changes to get out of debt so that we don't have to touch our 401k and we can use it for what it's supposed to be used for.
So let me just say that Consumer Affairs did a report similar to this last year, and it wasn't that people are using this money to cover hardships. People are using this money to cover everyday bills because of lifestyle inflation and because of just regular inflation. People are not able to stay on top of their bills. Most Americans right now are in a position where they have more months than money. And that is a major issue. And it can only be solved two ways. It's just like a diet, right? It's just like anything else. Like you have to consume less calories in order to lose weight, right? You have to create a calorie deficit. So in order to fix your finances, you have to increase the gap between your expenses and your income. And the reality is that we're such a consumerist society. Most people do not understand how much they're bringing in and taking home, and that is really the first step. We are so dialed into ads, and we talked on the last episode about like the TikTok shop and just how fast and how low friction it is to spend. We don't have a good relationship with saving, and we don't have a good relationship with tracking our expenses to know where to cut back or what is a want versus a need. And so when people ask me for tips and tricks, it's really basic stuff, but people want like this magic formula, and there's no magic formula. But the thing is that a lot of people, especially in America, have a very strained relationship with money. They have money trauma, and there are some mindset things that need to shift in order for them to change the relationship that they have with their money. And yeah, you'll continue to see this until you see a big shift in consumerism and the way that we think about money. And so, practically, if people are trying to not fall into this category or find themselves in a position where they do have more month than money, is really a good time to sit down and do some tracking of expenses, tracking of income, earn extra income, where to try to figure out ways that you can earn extra income where you're not necessarily trading more time for money, but maybe just asking for a raise. Like that's the most basic thing that you can do. Doing more jobs or doing overtime at work. Sorry, she woke up. She was asleep and she woke up. Yeah, and it's just number one, healing that money, that relationship with money, healing that money trauma that you have, actively tracking expenses, doing that thing that everybody hates, the word budget. You know.
So Nasima, can I ask, because this may seem so elementary to you because you've done it, but when you say tracking money and budgeting,
yes.
So How do you start that process? Is it as simple as printing out your bank statements or your credit card statements and highlighting to see what you're spending on food, what you're spending on gas, and doing those calculations?
Yeah, so I'm a fintech kind of person. Like I'm old, but I like technology. So there's amazing apps out there that can help you do that, even with AI components built into it. So there is an app that I like to use called Monarch Money. You can link your bank accounts to that, and you can plug into the AI tool. How much money am I spending every month? How much am I actually bringing home every month? And then you can actually just go through your transactions. So it'll pull at least a couple of months back of transactions where you can start looking through what you're spending money on. And then you can create a list of things that you are spending money on that are like pure wants or things that are pure needs, right? And then you start knocking out all of those wants and focusing on those needs. And the bottom line is that most people have inflated their lifestyle so much that they are out of touch with what is an actual want versus a need. So that's
That's good.
why that's why I talk about like money, like therapy and healing money trauma, because it's some things that have subconsciously happened in people's spending habits that they might not be able to see on their own. And it's not anything that can be fixed overnight. These are things that it's going to take months of practice, and months of like really intentional, like taking of action, like every day looking at what your spending is, looking at your habits, looking at why you are falling into these consumer traps, right? So
So
I know
Nasima, there's
every.
a question from the
Mhm,
chat.
mhm,
Somebody has a question for you, and sorry if I mess up your name. Sequette
mhm,
Williams. It
mhm.
says, Nasima, how much do you think the increases in basic utilities and overwhelming cost of living has played a part of all of this?
Honestly, I think it has a probably, if we were to say like percentage wise, maybe like a 10% role. Maybe like groceries are really
Ooh.
high, and
Yeah.
but I don't really think that's what it is, because I see just as many Amazon packages on my neighbor's doorsteps. I see just as much people at Target in that little $5 section picking up stuff that they don't need. I don't see those sales going down. I just think that a lot of times people heal themselves by retail therapy and all of these things, all of these habits that aren't necessarily very healthy. That this consumerism, because Amazon has created, TikTok Shop has created no friction in order to buy, that people are still frivolously spending and don't even know what they're spending money on. I was at that point where I made a lot of money. I made six figures for years, but I never could, I didn't have anything to show for my money. Like I was just like, where is all my money going? So it wasn't until I got really intentional and started tracking my expenses and started being like, this is what I want to spend my money on. And then those other things kind of fell by the wayside because they didn't even matter. And I was hitting my goals. But it was that intentionality that changed everything. It wasn't that I couldn't buy those things. It's just I no longer had the desire. And now my money was going to work for me instead of me working for my money.
And you
So
said the
she
app
gave
was
us two
called
things.
Monarch, right?
Yeah, Monarch Money.
Okay, so first thing she said was ask for a raise. Second thing she said was download Monarch. Okay, so two tactical tips from Nasima. Okay, now, so I feel like I think that's interesting. I felt like that's what you were gonna say to in response to that question, like inflation and the cost of goods and services, significant, but really your habits are more significant than the cost of goods and services. So I really appreciate you adding perspective on that. Another part of this article I wanted to touch on a little bit. It talked about um, credit card debt, the surge in credit card debt, and Patty, wasn't there a statistic about charge offs, an increase in charge offs as well? Do you remember that?
Yeah, there's a significant increase in charge offs, and that's when the creditor charges off the debt for lack of payment. So they
Right.
charge it off. It's not collectible after a charge off. Yeah.
Okay.
On that note, on the 401ks, I would love to see what percentage of those hardship withdrawals, which is what they're classified as, would be considered that were used for down payments on a home. Just wanted to add that.
Mm.
But the thing I wanted to also clarify that there are two ways you can withdraw money from your 401k, right? You can take a hardship loan out, which is basically taking that balance of the 401k out and agreeing to pay taxes on it, which is usually a 10% tax. During COVID, it was paused for a little while, and we saw people doing that. Or you can take a loan out against the balance, which is not considered withdrawing technically for that 401k. But at the point that you are separated from your employer, that balance is due within 90 days. So it can put you in another hardship for taking that loan if you're not in a position where you think that you may maintain that job long term, or you don't know in this economy. So I just wanted to clarify that there's two ways. I have done the latter way, which is to take out a loan against my 403b to pay for a home. But I do know many people that do take hardship loans out against their 401k, take the 10% hit and pay for down payments. A lot of people are taught like that's a responsible thing to do. Once I became more financially savvy, I understood the long-term impacts of doing things like that. And so I strongly discourage that. However, if it is truly a hardship, that is what a hardship loan is for.
So it's interesting. She talked about the relationship with money, right? You said people have an unhealthy relationship with money. A lot of that could also be, we live in a society where we no longer see the importance of delayed gratification. So we want what we want now. And we're like, YOLO, I'll figure it out the rest of the way.